Welcome back to the Get Organized HQ channel, everybody. I'm Tasha, and today we are comparing 4 different brands of food storage containers. Now, these are the containers for like decanting your flour, your sugar in your pantry. 4 different brands of them that you probably haven't heard a whole lot about before. So we're gonna look at the pros and cons of each one of them. And before we do that, make sure you've subscribed to our channel, give this video a big thumbs up, and let's dive right in. The first set I want to show you is these progressive ProKeeper pantry storage acrylic bins. These are actually what I use in my own kitchen. So if they look a little dirty, that's because they are well loved and used, all different shapes and sizes of containers, and they are really cool because they are specifically designed for the different baking goods that you might have inside your pantry. So let me show you how this works. It has this little tab here that really like snaps closed. That's really nice because it keeps the lid on securely. You can see the little tab right there. It snaps into the acrylic and it makes sure that your lid isn't going to fall off. And then it has this kind of like silicone band around the lid to help it seal down as you press down. But that snap really makes sure it doesn't close or doesn't fall open, I guess I should say. Make sure it stays closed. Then inside, there are all sorts of neat gadgets. So in these little ones, there's this sliding piece that lets it become a shaker. So you can shake out whatever is inside of it. Both of the small ones are made the same. And then this is the brown sugar one. And it has this little like, I don't even know what it's called, a brown sugar stone, keep it moister. It's just one of those stones. It's supposed to help keep your brown sugar moist. It came with that, with the container. This is the powdered sugar container right here. And the special thing that came with that was this very now powdered sugar covered spoon. And so it's like a teaspoon on one side and you can also slide it over. And it has this like grate type thing so that you could sprinkle powdered sugar, great for like sprinkling on top of cookies or something like that. And it can snap up into the top there, but I normally just end up dropping it down in there. And that is a leveler, which is really, really nice so that whenever you scoop stuff out, you can just get it level straight out of the container. I actually really love that. There's also the sugar container. Now, this one has a really nice grip for grabbing it. I wish they all had that because that makes it way easier to grab. And there isn't a whole lot fancy about this one, just like a big open top there. But there is this little flip tab on the side so you can like pour out the side if you would like to. So that's kind of the special thing there. And then the flour container, it is the biggest, and it also has inside of it this leveler. And man, I'm spoiled. I love using that leveler inside the flour container. I kind of wish they all had it, to be honest. But these are the progressive ProKeepers. Here's what they look like all filled, and we are going to do a comparison with some other food storage containers as well. This next set is the Rosanna Pansino line from the Container Store. I love the colors on these. The cream color of the container, the natural wood lid. It really is a real wood. Like they're not the same shade of wood if you compare the two. They just have this like slide on, pop on lid. It's got this silicone band around it that kind of holds it in place and you really just push it on and that's how the lid goes on. So lids maybe not quite as secure, but they're really beautiful canisters, all these different sizes. Now I do want to show you, they're kind of modular. Like you see those two and how they fit on the one. And then that stack right there fits with the bigger one. But then I wasn't really sure what to do with this other container that it came with. This is the pantry set, and that last container just doesn't really fit anything. So I don't know if they sell another one that just isn't included in the pantry set or something. But I mean, they're decently modular. You see that those short ones, they're all the same height, and then you have like kind of the stair step of the 3. And there's also an acrylic version. So if you just love acrylic food storage, you can get the same line with an acrylic base, the wood top, and I'm excited to see how these perform. They're really just standard containers. There's no like bells and whistles. There's no special tools that come inside or anything. Just a container with a lid that slides onto them. And I also think they would be beautiful just to stick a label right there on the side. So I'm gonna take everything out of this first set and put it into these containers. Now, we already talked a little bit about how these progressive ProKeeper containers, they come with like all sorts of fancy things. I just love the leveler on the flour. I'm just using the pour feature on the sugar there to transport the sugar over. I've got to say, like getting the contents in and out of these containers in general is really easy. Actually, the brown sugar was my least favorite. There is no leveler in there. They have rounded sides. And so getting the contents out of the rounded sides can be a little tricky without a leveler option. And then this is a really small spoon that comes with the powdered sugar. You could always, of course, grab a bigger one to get more out at a time. But it's definitely meant for like teaspoons and maybe not for measuring entire cups. And I just poured the baking soda. So I want to take a look at how the contents fit into these containers. And actually, I was really impressed. All of that flour fit in there. So I would anticipate a 5-pound bag of flour would fit pretty well into this container. It looks smaller than it actually was once I started putting the stuff in there. The sugar fit with so much room to spare. Definitely this container is bigger than the one for sugar from the Progressive ProKeepers. So you could keep a lot more in there, which is nice. I will say getting the lids on with one hand is a little bit tricky, getting them on and off depending on how stuck they are. This one was pretty stuck right here, but you're glad whenever your lid is not just easily sliding off, so that's definitely a good thing. Here's the brown sugar. I'd say it holds a decently comparable amount. It could hold probably a little more than what's in there, but it's pretty comparable to the Progressive ProKeeper. This one I put baking soda in. There wasn't tons and tons of baking soda. It could easily hold an entire box of baking soda. It's plenty big for something like that. But this one is what I used for the powdered sugar. And this one, if I can ever get the lid off here, let's see. There we go. This one, it did not hold nearly the same amount of powdered sugar. I would probably just use a bigger container than this small one for powdered sugar. I'm not exactly sure what this size container was intended for. So yeah, one like this one here, I'd probably use for powdered sugar, this bigger one, instead of trying to keep it in this little square one. Maybe I could put baking soda and baking powder in the little ones or something along those lines. But I did want to do a comparison of kind of what I had in the other containers from Progressive ProKeepers. So there you have them all stacked together. They do look really nice and classy. I was surprised with how much I liked these. Next up is the Ello containers. I was probably the most excited about these containers. The fun colors on them. They have matching lids. So there's like a color band around the top of the lid and the snaps, and it matches with the color on the bottom of the lid. They are modular, as you can see from how they're all stacked together here. You've kind of got like this medium size, the humongous size, a smaller medium size, and then like a small. And they have these snaps on the lids, so the lids go on really securely. They have that same silicone band, just an empty container once you open it up, nothing super fancy in there, but they have that push down silicone, but then the snaps definitely make the lids stay on very nicely. I did find the snaps a little hard to snap down from time to time, so just be aware of that. This is the big one, and it is just massive. Like, it's taller than it even looks. There's my hand, just in comparison to how humongous that container is. So that actually wasn't my favorite, just because it was so much bigger than any other food storage container. But we're going to see how they hold food. So scooping out of the Container Store products, I will say after using the Progressive ProKeeper, I definitely missed having just that little bar to level off the flour. It wasn't quite as easy to scoop out of these. The sugar was just easy to pour. So I'm just probably gonna pour sugar every time I do this because that's a lot easier. But nothing fancy in these containers in order to scoop in and out of them, but just very aesthetically pleasing. And I had a lot of success getting everything to fit inside the Ello containers. I'll show you more close up once I get them all full, exactly what fit, but I was able to put more powdered sugar in than I was in the other container. And that baking soda, I think it's gonna fit about anywhere. So here we are, the finished product of all of the containers lined up with food in them, tons of extra room in that really, really tall flour container. So that's about 5 pounds of flour right there with all that extra room at the top. Here's the powdered sugar, and I was able to get extra powdered sugar in there that I wasn't able to get into that smallest container of the Container Store line, and more extra room in the brown sugar container as well. So these are very sizable containers. If you have a lot that you're keeping on hand, you may want to get these. These are kind of that medium size. They're about half the size of that bigger one. Here's the baking soda, just, I mean, tons and tons and tons of room. I don't even know if I would decant my baking soda into something like this if these are what I was using. Maybe something like chocolate chips instead. And here is the sugar, still some room to grow in there, although actually probably not as much as there was in that Container Store container. So there's the finished product of the Ello brand. And last but certainly not least, these are the Brightroom containers. So I picked these up in my recent Target haul. They're acrylic with slide-on lids. I was actually really surprised with how similar the function of these with that silicone band and just the pop-on lid. It's incredibly similar to the Container Store function. just, you know, a fraction of the price because these are the Target Brightroom brand. I love how modular they are. So the two squares stack up to the one rectangle, and then the width matches the width of the wider container. That just makes my heart sing. I love how modular they are. Modular is harder to find than you might expect. So that's a really big win. These are pretty small containers, so it's gonna be interesting to see how much actually fits into them whenever we start moving everything over. So per usual, I'm just scooping everything out. As expected, I did not love how deep this flour container was. I mean, you're just sticking almost all the way down to your elbow to get the flour out of it. So while the size of the Ello containers is kind of a pro, it's also honestly kind of a con. They can hold a lot, but they're just a little bit cumbersome. But I got the contents moved over, and here's the final product using the Brightroom containers. So the flour container really did not hold very much at all, especially compared to that Ello one, but even compared to the other containers that were reviewed here, I probably just wouldn't even use this Brightroom container to hold flour because it's not going to hold anywhere close to a 5-pound bag of flour. I had tons of extra sugar as well in that skinnier container that I used. So I would probably just like end up flip-flopping or something. Like the sugar would fit better in what the flour is actually in because that's pretty full right there. They do have like a bigger container that looked more like a cereal container to me, but you could try that maybe for flour. There's the baking soda, and then definitely the brown sugar. There was tons of leftover brown sugar, putting it in this small square container. So I love how they are modular, but you can see there, look how much extra there was. I probably didn't even get half of it. If I were going to use these in my kitchen, I'd probably use this tall one for the brown sugar just so that I had more room. And then I'd find something else for flour because that's just not going to hold very much. But on the bright side, this is a really affordable alternative to OXO. And you may notice we didn't actually include OXO and Tupperware in this video. That's because we have an entire video reviewing those two products. So you can click the video and hop on over and check out our review of those two food storage containers.